This is convening of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Today is July 15th, 2025. It's approximately 10:05 a.m. We're holding this meeting virtually. I'm Jordan Maynard. I serve as the chair. And since we're doing that, we will take a roll call. Good morning, Commissioner O'Brien.
Good morning. I think you were hoping to be at the concert, AM instead of PM.
Oh, sorry, AM. We were just talking about concerts, everyone. Commissioner Hill.
Good morning. I am here.
Commissioner Skinner.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Broder.
I am here.
All right. It's public meeting number 558. With that call to order, we're going to move over to the meeting minutes. Is this Secretary Skinner? Is this your last, or is it Commissioner Broder?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my last rodeo for this cycle anyway. And so I'm going to let Paul do the honors for the next meeting, beginning the next meeting.
Awesome.
All right. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve the minutes from, I'll take the May 22nd, 2023 meeting that are included in our packet, subject to any necessary corrections for typographical errors or other non-material matters.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Abstain.
And I'm a yes. That's 4 and 1 abstention. Secretary Skinner.
I further move that the commission approve the minutes from the June 17th, 2025 meeting that are included in our packet, subject to any necessary corrections for typographical errors or other non-material matters.
Second.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. Thank you again, Secretary Skinner, for your great work in this field, and the fact that you brought us so up to date on the minutes. The previous secretary wasn't as good at that, and that was me, for everyone who doesn't know. And I look forward to working with incoming Secretary Broder.
Here, I couldn't have done any of that without my legal team, Jenna, Judy, Ying. And so I appreciate they're accommodating me when I was really demanding as to how many of these minutes I wanted to put forward and how much of a dent I wanted to make in the backlog. So thanks for putting up with me for the past year or so, Jenna and team. And Paul, you are in really, really, really good hands this next term.
I have no doubt, and we'll try to keep the pedal on the gas.
I'd appreciate that.
All right, sounds good. With that, we are going to turn it over to Edie Serpa and see if we have an administrative update. Edie Serpa.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. And good morning, commissioners. I do have 3 quick updates for us this morning. First, I wanted to remind commissioners and staff that tomorrow, the agency has organized SBO Small Business Support Day here at headquarters. This is in recognition of the commission receiving 4 separate awards from the Commonwealth Supplier Diversity Office at its annual awards ceremony in June. And so in recognition of that, we have arranged for some fun products to be brought to our offices for staff to enjoy from 7 different small Massachusetts businesses, small and diverse Massachusetts businesses. As you might remember, the commission was one of the most highly recognized departments across the Commonwealth at the awards event, which was a great accomplishment for our procurement staff. We appreciate them. So great job to John Scully and Camilla Lazone, Jacqueline Nett, and Noel Lowe, as well as all the senior managers who manage our department spending, for always looking for opportunities to include Massachusetts small and diverse businesses. So I encourage everybody to participate in that. We'll have information on each of the businesses available, allowing staff to take it home and learn about and spread the word about the great Massachusetts companies and all of that. So please plan to participate. Second, I needed to remind commissioners and really anybody who might be watching that this Sunday, July 20th, is Spirit of Massachusetts Day at Plainridge Park Casino. It's a fun annual full-day racing event where some of the best harness racing horses in the country will be racing right here in Massachusetts. We'll have the largest purses of the season with over $150,000 being awarded during the day. And this year, Todd Angley, the Boston Bruins national anthem singer, will be on hand to do the anthem and a few other songs. PPC is going to be giving out Spirit of Massachusetts swag, so it should be a lot of fun. It all begins at 2 o'clock. The weather is looking good. It's a fun but active day for our on-site racing and licensing staff. So I appreciate all their hard work to make sure it goes off without a hitch, and I encourage anybody who's interested to participate. And last, I just wanted to update commissioners and staff that we have reached the conclusion of our search or the search process for the new division chief for human resources here at the Gaming Commission. After a pretty robust search process, we received over 90 applicants. We conducted about 14 first-round interviews and met with 4 or 5 second-round candidates. As of last week, the search, offer, and background check process concluded, and our new division chief is Kathleen Buckley. She's a resident of Needham, Massachusetts, and she has a strong background in town, municipal, and state government human resources. So that'll be a benefit to our organization. She holds an MBA with a concentration in human resources, and she is SHRM SHRM certified. So we're excited to have her joining us, and having her leadership will be a great benefit for the important department. And she plans to start on August 18th. So those are my 3 updates, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Edie Serpa. I'll open the floor. I will say before that, on your last matter, I want to thank you, Commissioner Skinner, Judy, Caitlin, and Derek for serving on that search committee. Very appreciated, and we look forward to working with Kathleen. Commissioners, any questions, comments on any of the updates Edie Serpa had? All right. Well, thank you, Edie Serpa.
Thank you.
I rode in the back of the truck last year for the Spirit of Massachusetts. So I recommend anybody, I see Commissioner O'Brien, anybody that can do that, that's fun. You have to work that out with Alex before you go.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that. So I was in the old truck. I haven't been in the new one. So I feel like that justifies me doing it again.
I mean, when you see them right up close, it's
Yep.
just a different ballgame. It really is. They're truly athletes.
Beautiful creatures. Yeah, they're unbelievable.
Truly athletes. All right. I believe with that, we're going to turn it over to Director Mark Vanderlinden for item number 4.
You
Hi,
are.
Director
Thank-
Vanderlinden.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioner. Yes, it's that time of the year again for a quarterly update from our GameSense team. I don't think I need to introduce the GameSense program. I think that it's well established here at the Commission. So I'll turn it over to our experts, but let me just first introduce them. I see that we have Marlene Warner, who is the CEO of the Mass Council on Gaming and Health. We have Michael Tuplin, who is the new COO of the council. We have Amy Gabrilla, who is the Director of Player Health for the council. And finally, we have Shakana Hoffman, who is the Director of Programs, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. So I'll turn it over to you. I believe probably Marlene, you will kick it off.
Exactly right. Good morning. Thank you, everyone. I'm calling you from my car in Bloomington, Indiana. So you never know where Marlene's going to pop in from, but here I am. So thank you, Mark. And thank you, Mike, for pulling up the presentation. I just wanted to pop on both to see all of you, but also to do a little bit of an introduction of Mike. Mike is our new COO, as Mark just said, but also a pretty established human services professional, has had quite a significant career so far in Massachusetts and making sure organizations are humming along and the processes are moving the way they need to. So I just wanted to be able to introduce him. So you'll get to meet him in just a moment, but I'm going to just take care of these first few slides and I'm going to say bid you all adieu. So again, for the agenda today, you're going to get a chance to continue to meet some of our staff, most of whom you already know. I think you've all already met Shakana Hoffman, but if not, nearly Dr. Shakana Hoffman will be speaking with you shortly. And she's she's all but doctorate and going to be defending that this fall and has been working really hard in making sure that our information in research is connecting to practice. And then, of course, you all know Amy. Next slide. So again, next slide. And then I just wanted to, I know this is something that, we present every quarter to all of you. And I just want to pull this up and kind of have you pay attention to the fact that we do provide our funders and our present contracts to you every quarter. I'm happy to talk with folks about any of these details of these contracts or these grants. But we are focused on making sure we have diversity amongst the team and in terms of the work that we're doing. So lots of exciting projects underway. Next slide. And with this,
this is where you
turn
hand
it
it.
over to Mike. Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mike. Take it away.
Sure thing. Thank you, Marlene, and a pleasure to meet all of you. I'm happy to be jumping here at the council and working with GameSense and really diving into all things related to MGC and the great work that you all do here. So I have the task of the next few slides on data highlights. Always, let's say not the most boring, but maybe not the most flashy of these presentations. So let's hop on in. At first look, we have our interaction analysis. So this quarter, Q4 of 2025, we saw nearly 17,000 intensive interactions, which are both our exchanges and demonstrations on the GameSense team. These happen between our patrons and like I said, the GameSense advisors or GameSense managers. We saw April was the highest month, which came after the always popular PGAM. So we had some carryover there. Typically, we see that kind of increase right in March. Activities completed at the 3 properties this quarter range from cognitive distortion and Chinese Dragon Boat quizzes. The Dragon Boat quizzes were both in English and Chinese languages. We also then expanded to the theme of our national observances over the last quarter. So we had mental health awareness, Juneteenth, and Pride activities that we worked through each of our GameSense information centers with our patrons as well. And one anecdote, the Pride quiz ended up being our most popular quiz at over 601 participants in the month of June, which was fantastic to see across our advisors. You can see here on the slides too, interactions really focused on GameSense itself and kind of what services we offer, quickly followed by the Play My Way and the toolkit that Play My Way offers as well to our patrons, rounded out by odds and myths within the games and the casino, as well as budgeting, and just kind of, that money management piece that we see a lot with our patrons, kind of mutual folks. Lastly, we can also see, it's probably no surprise, but just kind of for continuity purposes, you can see the height of our interactions to really happen in that evening time slot of 5 to 10 p.m., about 38%, or actually 38%, which is followed by the noon to 5 p.m. at 34%. Really, in those 10 hours, we're seeing almost 3/4 of all interactions that we get. Not to say the other time slots aren't impactful or purposeful, but this is definitely where we see the most foot traffic, and I think that aligns with the casinos as well, kind of mirroring those influxes in folks. tackles the interaction analysis. Let me hop over to our voluntarily self-exclusion and follow-up information. So this quarter, we actually saw the second highest enrollment in the VSEs with 218, just shy of the 239 we saw in Q2 of this fiscal year. So just the end of last fall heading into the winter. Additionally, I think this is actually really important and really great to see is we had the highest quarter of VSE follow-up requests from patrons at 53, and that's a 26% increase than we saw the rest of the quarter, which was actually pretty flat in the 40s. So, our focus on really developing relationships and having more qualitative interactions with our patrons, really kind of playing off and getting them to the resources that we want to kind of offer and kind of those services for the patrons and knowing they're not alone there. This increase also showed up at our follow-up. So we did connect with 43 of those 53. We don't always get to find them if they ask for one, but we do always make the efforts, quite a few efforts to touch base. And we actually touched 43 of those folks for follow-ups. And then we'll see in the slide later the kind of telephone recovery supports that we offer and how those interactions went as well. So that's a quick snapshot. And then to round out the VSE, right, the other side of it is reinstatements. So we did see a total of 81 reinstatements for this quarter as well. Folks getting back into or off the VSE list that we signed up with them. Next up, a
Mr.
brief
Chairman?
slide. Oh,
Excuse me, Michael, I have
Yeah.
a question. But just on the previous slide, and it's
Sure.
it's regarding very generally the VSE enrollments. So I had the opportunity, along with Commissioner O'Brien, to attend the NAGRA conference last month. And on one of the panels, I cannot remember the official title of the panel, but it regarded responsible gaming. And one of the panelists, whose name I will not mention, made a comment around his perception that patrons are being deterred from enrolling in the VSE here in Massachusetts because of the length of time that it takes for the enrollment process to complete. Now, I am sorry that Marlene isn't on the call any longer, because she was in the room as well. And I think she would be probably the best person to speak to this. And I'm not asking for any information during this meeting, but I wonder if, and as far as I know, this is one individual's opinion. We, as a commission, I don't believe have received any information that VSE enrollment, in fact, takes too long and therefore folks aren't signing up. But I wonder if at some point in the near future, the council could come back to this commission at a future meeting and just talk to us about what the VSE enrollment process entails. And welcome, Michael. And I'm sorry to hit you with this one, but again, I'm not looking for any comprehensive response at this point. I just wanted to raise this as something that was mentioned very publicly at a gaming conference. And if we should be paying more attention to this, then I think we should. And in order for us to do that, I would need some additional information in terms of the process and really just from start to finish what it entails. And Mark is aware because he and I spoke about this also.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing that, Commissioner. I will take a quick anecdote because I do think that future time to invest in kind of that question there is very important. I know with our our game sense advisors who do VSEs, the focus really is on meeting people where they are. So it can be a quicker process or a longer process. We're really focused on supporting them through it. So if they want to share stories and insights, or kind of connect with us, we will offer more time. But definitely we will focus in, we can come back to a future meeting as well and kind of figure out, are we losing anyone because of that time, or what that would look like. So we can absolutely do that. So thank you for flagging that as well.
Thank you.
Excellent. And now pivoting over to our live chat and GAM line analysis, a briefer slide, but as we can see, we had 235 calls over this quarter, with the highest being in April. We also had a total of 77 calls in June. So we saw a little bit of a swing, not too, statistically great, but back to normal in June. And we'll be kind of focusing on that moving into the next quarter. We did see the little drop in May there. And then live chat interactions, as you can see here. So most of our live chats do revolve around that VSE. And we can see, well over 50% here, focusing on that as they chat with our advisors and our managers. As I was talking to our managers and I'm learning more about it, they did mention that a lot of these chats, do end up in a remote VSE, or then coming back in to the GSIC for a VSE. So these are really important to, for us to follow up on and know the breakdown of what's happening. We can also see sports books is a pretty big topic online as well. I know a lot of folks get directed over to us, our live chat, when they're online, kind of working through that process too. So we have a lot of supports there, and you can see the rest of the breakdowns as well. But quick brief slide, unlike my other two. We have a couple just selected magic moments I want to share briefly, kind of showing the rounded nature of the GSAs and kind of the different work that we do. First one was our GSA Chris. He's fantastic over at Encore, but he was working with a regular patron who approached him asking to learn more about how roulette works. He was just unsure. So Chris was working at the GSIC trying to explain to the patron, but he was still confused. It's a little bit complex. So he actually walked him over to the roulette tables on the floor and showed a little bit more of a hands-on experience, explaining how the game is working and how one would play it. And after some time, the patron was kind of saying, oh, that makes a lot more sense. I'm really understanding it a little bit better, knowing the rules and a little bit about like the odds and what may happen there. And then, kind of said, I'll come back. I might have a few more questions of more games. So just really highlighting our positive play and education aspect of the GSA, but working with folks, again, where they're at, what they want to learn, and really trying to help promote education and understanding in those areas. A little different was more kind of someone being, maybe approaching us a little more distraught with Ronnie here. Is she was approached as she was really just opening up the information center, and I guess shared that she was struggling to control her gambling, looking for help for both herself and her husband. So you kind of have the person and an affected person at the same time. Ronnie was listening with care, explained the programs that GameSense offers, shared some of the resources she had on hand, some brochures that we had that could support them. And in fact, the patron chose to exclude herself for 1 year. So she did complete the VSE and left the conversation feeling a little more hopeful. She also asked, she's a little more concerned for her husband. So Ronnie spent a little more additional time giving her materials for him as well, so that they could kind of have an informed conversation as a couple. And just making it, kind of that difference of having those conversations with our patrons, and even, affected others who, are just looking for some support, some help as well. And then lastly, with Aisha, she was working around kind of sports betting in this moment, where she was approached by a guest curious about GameSense, really what's it about. So they came and sat down with Aisha. She explained the program itself, and the guest was kind of admitting, that online betting sometimes gets out of hand. We're kind of seeing that in different walks of life. So Aisha walked him through available tools like setting time, deposit, and monetary limits, as well as using app-based timeouts. The patron said he was grateful for the information and said he would take steps kind of to set those better boundaries and really help him through the, immediate access of what sports betting can be, whether in the properties or out in the world in online gambling. So just a couple kind of rounded experiences with our GameSense advisors and some helpful moments that we had. And now I'm going to, for the Champions Awards, turn it over to Amy.
Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great summer. I'm here to share with you guys some of our champion awards from the different properties from this quarter. And we will start with MGM. First, we have Heidi Abreu from the slot department. And there was a day that Heidi noticed a regular player that seemed to be a little off, a little down, didn't seem to be their regular self. So she took the time to just check in for a moment, because, being aware of the behaviors and kind of, the regular personalities of guests is something that, casino gaming staff does very well. So when she noticed this person was a little off, she checked in. And the guests did say that they were concerned that they're spending a little too much money and they're not really having fun anymore like they used to when they were playing. And Heidi not only first off suggested enrolling in Play My Way, so was knowledgeable about that program and how it could be helpful to a player possibly, struggling with setting a budget or sticking to it. But also, certainly mentioned GameSense and who we are, as a place where that person could take a break, talk to somebody, possibly find some additional supports. She ran over to the center and actually grabbed a brochure, for this individual and let our team know, which is super important. So the communication between casino staff and GameSense staff, just letting our folks know that, listen, I have a regular guest out here that's showing a little concern for her play. Just want you guys, to know that, if you want to come out and maybe chat or so again, that communication of letting us know as well that there's somebody that we might want to possibly approach if it's appropriate is just awesome. Awesome that casino staff does that. So we appreciate that from Heidi. We also have Tori Whitefield from Food and Beverage at MGM, who was just awesome when we ran our PGAM coffee break sessions, which happened during March for Problem Gambling Awareness Month. We were set up at the center, to offer free coffee and play interactive fun games like our PGAM pairs, which I shared with, folks at the live meeting at MGC in March. Whenever you're trying to run some kind of campaign like that, stuff doesn't always go perfectly as planned when you start. And, we didn't get our coffee quite, and there was a little bit of things going on. And Tori stepped right in and absolutely immediately made sure that we got what we needed, to run this in the way that we we're planning on running it. Pulled it off completely, no hitches, and we were able to do exactly what we needed to do, for that first coffee break. So totally appreciate that. And then last at MGM, we have Anna Vaga from Table Games. Anna happened to overhear a guest at her table expressing again some frustration about spending too much. This happens quite a bit. And, she asked her about setting budgets and not being able to stick to them and having it be difficult. And Anna, of course, said, listen, we have this great group GameSense. We have a center, maybe take a break from the table for 20 minutes. Maybe we'll even save your spot. Go check them out. Talk to them. They're awesome. Take a break, get a little support, explain to them what's going on with you. And the guest actually did stop by the center after playing and talk to an advisor and left with some helpful supports and information and tips, and felt heard. So again, the staff's compassion and knowledge of GameSense and what we offer is just invaluable to what we do. Moving on to PPC, we have Carl, Moore from the security department. And Carl always goes above and beyond with support for, both guests as well as the GameSense team. And what I love about Carl is he's always eager to learn. He's always asking questions about player health, about GameSense, about the BSE, about Play My Way, about the things that we offer, because he wants to know so that he can use that knowledge to educate others whether it's other employees or guests at the casino. And at this moment, a player wanted to enroll in Play My Way, and Carl took the time to explain it quite thoroughly, actually, like very, very well. This wasn't just a, hey, go check this out. He actually understood the program, understood what it was about. So when the guest arrived at the Game Sense Center, they already had a very clear understanding, of what the advisor was going to help them sign up for. And again, just that patience and care, that opens the door to further conversations that we can have with guests, and having those employees understand what we offer is fantastic. Next, we have Kyra Cahoon from the IT department at PPC. And Kyra's been along around as long as I have, so I know Kyra as well. And he's awesome. And he's essential in keeping things running smoothly for our program. Anything IT related, he is on it. He's on it quick. He's on it with solutions and with a smile on his face. At one time during the quarter, there was a power outage, and one of the devices at the Game Center, was out of whack, damaged. And Kyle stepped right in with solutions, figured out the fix, and we were up and running like new before you knew it. And whether it's a small issue or a major fix IT wise, he's just always there with support. So we appreciate, I know I, as not an IT person, certainly appreciate the support, of the IT folks, at the different properties. And last at PPC, we have Shalem Cavazuto from receiving. Again, just an employee that's always bringing a smile and always being helpful to the Game Sense program. He often delivers, things that we receive. Recently, we had a package that went missing. We just weren't sure where it was, what happened. These things happen sometimes. And he was absolutely on it. This was not something that he put in the back pocket. He was going to make sure that this was found and it was delivered to us. And that's exactly what he did. He made it his mission to make sure he found that package for us. And again, that kind of like focus on us. And, with these operators, we're not second fiddle. They take our needs seriously, and we appreciate that. And that kind of reliability and concern and follow through just really makes us feel like a part of these teams, and we appreciate it. And sometimes it's these small things, but they add up. And Shalem is one of those guys that always delivers and just proves that great example of PPC support and action for us. And on to Encore Boston Harbor. First, we have Shadrach Toussaint, who is in the security department. Shadrach noticed that one of our Play My Way kiosks had gone blank. This happens sometimes, again, with IT. But he noticed it, and he actually took the initiative to, tap on the screen to figure out if he could bring it back to life, which he did. God bless him. I probably couldn't have figured it out. I would have had to call somebody. But he actually got that kiosk back up and functioning properly. And again, this isn't his primary job. He could have walked away. It's not, he could have walked away. I didn't see anything, but he took that small action, but again, made a big deal in making sure that that kiosk was up and running properly for guests to use. And that willingness to step in is something that we really, really appreciate. Next, we have Javier Fonseca from Slots. Javier actually helped us, stepped in to help us translate into Spanish for a guest who was, attempting to enroll in the VSE. So taking that time to, make sure that everything was clearly explained in this guest's first language, to make sure that it was accurate and he understood exactly what he was signing up for, is just essential. And the fact that he was professional and kind and was able to do that and make a real impact in somebody enrolling in the program was just amazing for us. Making sure that folks feel comfortable, if it's in the, the language they're most comfortable is amazing. And we appreciate Javier stepping in like that. And finally, at EBH, we have Vinny Mazzaferro from Slots. Again, a guy that's always friendly with Game Sense. During an overnight shift, he had walked a guest to the Game Sense Center who, again, suggested they were struggling with their gambling. And Vinny really just wanted to ensure that that guest had the opportunity to learn about any supports and resources from a Game Sense advisor. The fact that he was able to very kindly and empathically walk that guest over and hand them off to an advisor. So that guest could make an informed decision about whether it's self-exclusion or any supports or tips, to maybe help with any gambling related harm you may be experiencing. Again, that empathy, compassion, support, and knowing how to hand off to us appropriately, so that we can aid a guest is essential. And we appreciate, the support and the collaboration with these casino employees.
Excellent. Thank you, Amy. I will take it for the next couple slides and we'll hand it over to Shakana.
Just want to say thank you, Amy, again. And this is, I think, all of our favorite parts is hearing how property interacts with GameSense and helps GameSense help patrons. So just commend everyone on that effort.
Thank you, Commissioner. Pivoting over to outreach and engagement. So we are also trying to, get into the community, not just in the centers, but kind of reach out to folks, especially areas that, we could see a lot more patrons that may need support. So Lynn Ho is our GameSense manager at Encore Boston Harbor, and he's been doing a few different outreach sessions. The first one at Robert A. Georgine Towers, at the start of April, as well as the South Boston Elderly Apartments on April 15th. Actually meeting with a few folks after the meeting, one had flagged that their neighbor looked a little down after, kind of going to the casino frequently. And she was like, you know what, I'm going to bring you to this event that's happening within our building. And they came up and chatted with Lynn and went through resources just because the person was having a little bit of a difficult time and just needed to really know there was support out there, and found Lynn and, kind of took away, feeling a lot better, a lot more hopeful, and was going to come visit us at the center the next time they were there. We're also working with the Asian American Civic Association and the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association in partner with Viet Aid to develop some table games. The tabling has not happened yet. That's a look ahead for the next quarter, but really centered around the fall festivals, as well as a summer tabling event where they want to offer, a lot of their, community members are interested in kind of these resources and, access to supports around their gambling patterns. So just wanted to share a bit about us getting out into the community and finding folks, not just at the centers, which I think is fantastic work that Lynn is doing for us as well as providing brochures in multiple languages too, just to meet the community needs. And as promised earlier, so we do have our peer support. I won't read through the full story. It's here. You can definitely check on that. I'll have an anecdote. But in Q4, our peer specialists provided follow-ups to 43 individuals who did the self-exclusion, as we talked about earlier. In addition, we had 11 folks engage in full telephone recovery support, or TRS. TRS is a weekly check-in to help people stay on track with their goals around reducing their gambling harm. We showed, here, we have the quote here, but you'll see that, one person who signed up for TRS expressed, really feeling much more hopeful now that he's been able to receive regular support through, a peer who's trained and has, the lived experience aspect, and can really develop more of a relationship and kind of a common ground with these folks. Another person mentioned that this program really helped them access the young man support group that they've been looking for. Again, just not knowing the resources that are out there, so our peers can really help, our GSAs can also help. And this is a great kind of piece of that VSC again, like what happens after you exclude. And this is a great support that we can offer, that we enjoy offering to folks to really help them after the fact. Now I have, I can't go to the casinos anymore. Now what? And this really kind of ties that after piece together. So thank you for letting me share that. And I will pivot over to Shakana.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I am going to give our DEIB update for GameSense. And I'm in Q4. We were, can you go back a slide? There we go. We were celebrating or honoring 4 different observances. In April was Neurodiversity Awareness Month. In May was Mental Health Awareness Month. And in June was Pride Month and Juneteenth. And overall, when we're thinking about DEIB with GameSense, we're really trying to think about education, both internally and externally with our patrons, as well as connection and how we can partner with more mission-driven organizations and communities. So in April with Neurodiversity Awareness Month, we first we updated our cognitive distortions quiz. We thought that this might be a really good time to educate patrons, not just on cognitive distortions, but specifically the links between neurodiversity and gambling behaviors. So we weaved in some quizzes about that. As well as this was an opportunity we felt like we could support a business. So for example, in the raffle baskets in April, we had some dog treats from a nonprofit called Waggy and Tails, and Waggy and Friends, I think they're actually called. And they employ persons with intellectual disabilities. In May was Mental Health Awareness Month. So externally, we created a quiz that we've never had before, which was specifically focused on the connections between problem gambling and mental health conditions. So what are the implications? How does this show up in people's lives? And we also had internally education, which was a training, a mental health first aid, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And we also gave away free screening postcards from Mental Health America, which had free QR code with a free quiz that patrons could take on a mental health screening. And we also had some other giveaways in celebration. And finally, in June, we celebrated Pride Month in Juneteenth. And I will have a little bit more information about what we did internally related to Pride Month. But externally, we had our Pride quiz, which we went through and relaunched with more focus on academic research, on the implications and the elevated risks of problem gambling among the LGBTQ community. And we also, some of our GameSense folks were at Northampton Pride, where they helped Dr. Malkin recruit participants for new research she's doing for problem gambling among LGBTQ individuals. And next, and as well as with Juneteenth, we updated our quiz to be more culturally respectful, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Next slide, please. Okay, so during Pride Month and that focus on internal education, Amy, myself, and Elisa Perel from One Digital, which is our human resources organization or consulting service, we did a training for all staff at our last in-person all-staff meeting in June. It was sort of an introduction to what DEIB actually means. What do those letters mean? What do they mean today? As well as inclusive language, particularly to be using with patrons that identify as LGBTQ. And we also covered a little bit about anti-bias and anti-bias training. So this was kind of an overview training to go not just along with the month, but lead into other things that we'll be doing throughout the year. Next slide, please. And as I had mentioned about Juneteenth, we're trying to do a focus on quizzes that are more culturally respectful, but more culturally resonate as well. So the two we really focused on in the last quarter to update was our Juneteenth quiz. And rather just than facts about Juneteenth, we really tried to educate patrons on the impacts of problem gambling within the African American community, and as well as the elevated risks and why that is. And the other quiz that we did was a Dragon Boat Festival quiz, which we actually this year translated to increase accessibility and more cultural resonance. And next slide, please. And during May, for Mental Health Awareness Month, we did, led by Amy and Aisha, did the mental health first aid training. This was an 8-hour training that all staff went through. And this was, as we've had to do in the past, was to equip all of our team members with the tools to recognize and respond to signs of mental health challenges. So kudos to Amy and Aisha. I went through the training and it was very helpful and I think super relevant to the work that we do. And next slide, please.
Shekinah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have a question.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this is the first time you're presenting to the commission, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong, but Marlene speaks very highly of you. You should know that.
Good. At least I got that going for me.
Yeah, and so my question to you is, as part of the tools, as part of the tools that you arm the advisors with, it's part of this mental health first aid training. Does it include referral to state services or resources around mental health? Just curious as to how is it that you are directing individuals, not just on the gaming focus here, but just the broader issue of mental health services, and whether your team is acknowledging that there are other state agencies that can lend a hand if the patron opts to take advantage.
Sure, that's a great question. In terms of the training, I'll point to Amy, but as this is, I think I presented once briefly 2 quarters ago. So I'll actually reintroduce myself with that point, and then I'll turn it over to Amy. Hello, I'm Shekinah, our Director of Programs in DEIB. As Marlene had said, I'm a PhD candidate. I'm graduating in 3 months. My research is on workplace harassment of women in the gaming industry. I've been in the DEI space for gaming for about 10 years now, working at the AGA and the UNLV International Gaming Institute. So this is my bread and butter, and I'm really excited to actually put the research that I do into practice within GameSense. So that's a little about me. And now about your point about mental health referrals within the training. I know that this is something that we do broadly within GameSense, but Amy, did you want to speak to specifically within the training as you led it?
Oh. Okay, I'm unmuted. So to answer your question, right now specifically, we refer folks to the Mass Gambling Helpline page, which obviously there's overlap. One of the goals that we want to do is, and we've been working tirelessly on, creating this immense and comprehensive, support and resource, essentially package for folks, but to be able to get specifically and not necessarily gambling, as you're saying, but like not just that, but overall mental health, services for folks. That is something that we absolutely want to and are intending to eventually incorporate into that toolkit. So whether that's, the DPH website, where a lot of times you're looking at organizations that offer either sliding scale or free care, making sure folks, have that available as well specifically is something that we are certainly actively talking about, and that will eventually be part of our toolkit, our overall toolkit, as well as packages for specific demographics. Last year, I created one specifically for LGBTQ. So a list of organizations within the state, both mental health wise, gambling wise, physical health wise, all kinds of, again, not just gambling specific resources for folks within that community seeking help. And the plan is to keep expanding that, to other groups as well.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. I think that's very helpful. If you're seeing folks from this community anyway, I wouldn't personally want to miss the opportunity to direct those individuals, that community to, the agency that, can really, really make a difference in their lives, or the agencies, right? That can make a difference in their lives outside of, again, the narrow gaming space. So thanks for that response. And Shekinah, I'm sorry I missed you 2 quarters ago.
All right. And before I turn it over to Amy for the 10 years, does anyone have any other questions about some of the DEIB work we're doing? All good.
Here we
Great.
go.
Sounds good. Amy?
I'm back. Y'all just can't get rid of me. I'm sorry. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, I always want to see you guys, but I very specifically wanted to be on this meeting today because it's just so beyond personal for me, this 10-year anniversary. It's something I've reflected on. Every one of my anniversaries I reflect on, but the Game Sense anniversary and my anniversary are one and the same. I started June 24th at Plainridge Park Casino. The Game Sense program was launched on June 24th at Plainridge Park Casino. And it marks, for me, on a personal note, the day I took the biggest gamble of my life, which I guess is apropos for the field I'm in and have been in for the past 30 years. I came into this honestly not knowing if I would make the cut. I knew nothing about addiction. I knew nothing about public health. I knew nothing about so many things that I knew I was going to have to learn if I was to be successful in this. And I probably a dozen times almost called Marlene and said, you know what? I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And luckily, my beautiful wife was like, are you silly? You're going to be great at this, and convinced me to drive to that casino that day. And I'm glad she did, because it's the biggest jackpot I've ever hit. I can't express how this program and this job have changed my life. And when we started, listen, we were green, not just Game Sense green, we were green. Massachusetts was bringing a brand new innovative program. And I think we all had our goals, but we weren't sure how everything was going to pan out. And we knew there was going to be a lot of learning going on. And we had very humble beginnings. When I walked in there, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was a lot of awareness, very simple awareness strategies on, very simple gambling literacy strategies, like talking very basically about randomness, setting budgets, setting limits. And it was really all about that very basic awareness of player health and responsible gambling. We were mainly focused with work being done on the properties, really starting to get that base with the operators. I come from, before this, 18 years in the game, as on the operator end. And I kind of understood when we first came in, there was, I don't want to say not trust, but, and I got this from coming from that side. Who are these people and what are they doing? What do they want from us? How is this going to work out? There's a little bit of, what are these guys up to? And the beauty is that those relationships blossomed and developed through trust and honesty and communication. And it did not take long for the folks at PPC first, and then on down the line, to realize that we were going to collaborate together and do something great. So just to see that blossom, because again, through those Game Sense champions, it is so imperative, to have that support. And it was incumbent on us to build that trust, to make them understand what we were about, and to see that unfold over the years has just been amazing. And like I said at the beginning, it was nuts. We were doing paper VSC enrollments. We had guests filling out these forms manually. And I mean, if anyone had to read my writing, believe me, it could sometimes be like a puzzle piece, putting these things together. But again, to see the advancements, whether it's in technology or us learning, from, whatever we had in place and deciding that we could do it better, and always having leadership listen, to any kind of, suggestions we had. Was amazing to feel like that they were going to listen to any suggestions we have, and just keep evolving this program as we went along. 10 years later, we're now in all 3 casinos. And we've shifted. Now this isn't as basic anymore. Now we're not just talking about set limits, set budgets, slots are random, actually really getting into more the structures of these games, the concepts of this, the psychological kind of machinations that are going on in folks' heads when it comes to gambling, to addiction. Why am I thinking what I'm thinking? Why? You'll have so many people say, I set a budget and I can't stick to it. Why? These are the thoughts that go through my head. So not only let's give you the tips on how to have a more player health or RG focused attitude to your gambling, but incorporating things in like the positive play scale. What does it mean to have a positive relationship with gambling, with your behaviors and your thoughts and your attitudes and your actions? Lower risk gambling guidelines. So any of this new research, any of these new guidelines that come out are being incorporated directly into whether it's quizzes we do, whether it's conversations that we're having with guests, making sure we're using techniques like motivational interviewing with guests that might be expressing, possibly changing their relationship with gambling. Making sure that, again, we're meeting folks where they're at, but we're doing it with evidence-based techniques, with evidence-based research, using mass-specific data from the awesome people at UMass with the Sigma and the Sigma follow-up study, Rachel Volberg and her staff, making sure all that's incorporated into what we're teaching guests and or casino employees. One of the biggest things I've seen, of course, is the expansion into the digital landscape with the remote VSE and different things we're doing that just didn't exist 10 years ago. But again, part of being the best that we can be in providing the best services for our guests is evolving with the times. And as much as I'm a dinosaur and would still love for everything to be on paper, that's not the world we live in now. And so we need to adjust to that to make sure that we're providing the best, the most accurate, the most available, and easiest ways for people to get their information, and making sure that we're taking into account that not everybody accesses information the same way or resources the same way. So making sure that we have a great variety of ways for people to do that. And just on a personal note, I've heard from patrons that have contacted me after the fact and told me about the different ways that I've influenced them and helped them. Everything from young kids, 21, 22 years old, calling me back and saying, there's no way I can ever express to you how your empathy and your understanding of my situation helped me to get through this. And I'll never forget the person in the face that started me on my recovery journey, to guys coming back 5 years later at MGM and coming up and bear hugging me and saying, I got my business back. You'll never know what it meant to me. It wasn't just the fact that I signed up for this, but it was more how you treated me, right? And that's game sense, right? A form is a form. It's how we interact with and care for people. I think that makes a lot of the difference and our ability to understand. And those moments are near and dear to me. But really what I want to more express is I'm glad that I've helped in a small way, guide people and aid people. But this program's changed my life just as much as I've been able to help change anybody else's. And I just can't even tell you about the people I've gotten to work with, all you guys at MGC, your support, both folks now and in the past. Researchers, legislators, operators, all these relationships I've gotten to, have contact with and learn from some of the most amazing people I'd ever want to meet. And where I am today from where I was 11 years ago is it's astounding. I found my purpose. You all have helped me find my purpose. And I can't be grateful enough. And I really, really look forward to, and I really hope, I get the chance to keep developing this, because this is my passion. You all are just invaluable to me. And I just really wanted to make sure on this 10-year anniversary that I was able to express my gratitude and love for all of you and this program and the places we've been and the places I hope we're going. So thank you all. I'm sorry, I don't mean to forget. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come today and just let you know what this means to me.
Thank you, Amy. Your passion and your love and your care, we could use more of that throughout the industry. And I'll say this quickly, and I just saw Commissioner O'Brien's mute button go off too. I only have 4 boxes when the screen's up, so I can only see so much. But we did have an opportunity, the MGC, to talk at the G7 up in Calgary, and what we found was the rates of problem gambling in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts were similar to those in more mature markets, and totally a lot lower than what it is U.S. Nationwide. And there are a lot of reasons for that, have been explained here, a lot of theories. But one of my theories is the fact that the GameSense program has existed in Massachusetts, and the fact that we were able to accelerate over 10 years what other markets it's taken them 75 years to do, and there are other jurisdictions in the United States that just aren't there yet, and I hope they get there. But I think it's largely due, Amy, to you and to your colleagues and to the program that was put in place by all of our 5 commissioners, our predecessors. And so I just want to commend you and thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you. To echo and build on what you said, I think you are synonymous with GameSense in my mind. I literally, when I have the quarterlies on the agenda, your face pops into my head. I think in addition to everything Commissioner Maynard said, Chair Maynard said, it's also your wit and your humor and your energy that I think has helped to drive the program and draw people in. And I, for one, and probably the commission, want to express our internal gratitude for your wife encouraging you to show up that day to make sure that we got you in the door and saw what a great fit it is. And I am grateful every day as a commissioner and as a resident in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that we have someone like you at the program. So to personally express my thanks and my gratitude to you. Today's a really great day to do it.
Thank you, guys. Feelings mutual.
Amy, happy anniversary to you. Thank you for caring. Thank you for your passion. It was 10 years very well spent. I want to join Chair Maynard and Commissioner O'Brien in thanking you personally for your service to GameSense, for your service to the properties and the patrons and the Commonwealth. And I'm really glad that your experience has impacted you personally. I think you are a shining star, and keep up the great work. You are an inspiration. And again, I appreciate you and everything you do in this space.
All right.
I can't really follow that up, but we have one last slide of looking ahead. I'm glad we wrapped up the 10 years, but just really quick mention for Q1 in the fiscal year 26, we're looking at minority mental health awareness in July, currently going on, as well as overall wellness quiz in August, and then in September, the ever popular responsible gambling education month. So that will kind of close up our slides. But again, thank you so much, Amy, and everyone for letting us be here, and your wonderful words.
Thank you, and a special welcome to you, Michael, and good luck as you move forward in this new position.
Thank you so much.
All right. Anything else, commissioners, before we kick it back to Director Van der Linden to wrap up? All right, Director Vanderlinden.
Yeah, I can remember the 10 years and that first day of Game Sense. And it did feel a, a little less grounded. And a few years after that, we developed a framework for the Game Sense program, 3 pillars: promote positive play, reduce gambling related harms, and create a responsible gaming enabled workforce. And I could, and I think it's representative throughout every single quarterly report that we're focused on these 3 pillars of what game sense is and what is done. But it really occurred to me as Amy was going through some of the Game Sense Champion Awards that we do every single quarter. There's 3 champions, and we recognize them and for big and small things. But when you think about, there's only 3 pillars of what the Game Sense program is. 2 are really obvious. This last one of creating a responsible gaming enabled workforce, the Game Sense champions kind of fostering whatever we can do to help frontline staff up and down throughout the casinos buy into what Game Sense is and what we're accomplishing, I think is really important. It's not that operators don't care about this and aren't doing their own efforts, but getting onto the same page and collaborating and being focused on this, I think, is really important. So I also, Chair Maynard, really appreciate the Game Sense Champion Awards, but it's a reminder of why are we doing this? It's because we want a responsible gaming enabled workforce in the Commonwealth. So thank you.
Thank you to everyone that joined us from the program, and thank you, Director Vanderlinden, and for all your work in this space. You've also been there since the beginning, so happy 10 years to you too from the MGC side.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, commissioners, on this topic before we move forward? All right. Next up, we have Chief Carrie Teresi and the Sports Wagering Division to discuss a matter. And then I'm thinking after that, we'll take a short break. Does that sound good? All right. Chief Teresi, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. We have one item for you this morning from the Sports Wagering Division, and that is a request from Encore Boston Harbor seeking a permanent waiver from the requirement in 205 CMR 238-12 that sports wagering operators obtain a letter of credit to cover their liabilities. You'll recall that the Commission has discussed this particular regulation and this particular requirement at length beginning over a year ago. Possible amendments came before the Commission several times, and we sought feedback from operators on multiple occasions. The Commission discussed whether to maintain the requirement that the letter of credit cover liabilities, or excuse me, or to modify or remove the requirement. Pardon me one second. Sorry about that. Or to remove the requirement in a number of possible ways. Ultimately, the Commission decided to maintain the requirement. Encore now argues that as a Category 1 operator, their sports wagering liabilities are fully accounted for by the gaming establishment's minimum cash on hand requirements, and that the letter of credit is therefore unnecessary. This sufficient cash on hand argument was raised earlier this year by MGM Springfield and was considered by the Commission and ultimately rejected. The Commission decided that cash on hand was not sufficient to meet the intent of the requirement, which was to provide greater protection than cash in the event of bankruptcy. So for these reasons, we would recommend that the Commission deny Encore's request. Derek and Justin and I are all here should you have any questions. And Juliana Catanzariti is also here from Encore should you have any questions for her.
Thank you, Carrie. Commissioners, questions, comments, anything EDA wants to say? Commissioner Hill.
I respect their request of Encore coming before us today, but I have to be honest, I feel as I did back with the MGM situation that this that they should have to put forward the letter as requested in the regulations. And I would feel very strongly at this point that I would be backing Carrie's request that we not grant this waiver at this time. And I, of course, would wait to hear from my fellow commissioners and how they feel, but if you're ready, I'm ready to make a motion on this.
Commissioners, Commissioner Broder,
I'm ready to second the motion.
Commissioner Skinner, Commissioner O'Brien, I just want to check. I'll echo Commissioner Hill. What you said is I feel for them. We debated this, I think, over 3 or 4 meetings around the time before Commissioner Broder started and after. I can mark it by that letter of credit conversation. You know, I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, we want to make sure patrons are protected and their accounts are protected. And we also don't want to, I think, open up a slippery slope of handing these out to other operators. Commissioner Skinner?
Yeah, I agree completely. I do sympathize with Encore. But the sticking point for me, and not to rehash anything, because I think we did talk about this ad nauseum, sticking point for me in these most recent discussions, and so far as this particular request is concerned, is there wouldn't be a way to access those reserves. And so that's where, you know, I have to say that we should stick with what we decided previously. It's unfortunate that we didn't have Encore at the table at the time for whatever reason. But I do think that we made the right decision, supportive of some of the arguments that Encore puts forth. But at this time, I think there's no reason that we need to backtrack in the decision that we've already made based on, again, multiple conversations, multiple research, even with the assistance of outside counsel.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. I will say, I just want to open the floor and make sure EBH doesn't want to make a comment before looks like we're going to make a motion vote. July.
Good morning. No, we have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Mr. Chairman, I move that in accordance with 205 CMR 202.032, the commission deny the request from Encore Boston Harbor for a permanent waiver from the letter of credit requirement of 238.12 as detailed in the materials in the commissioner's packet and is discussed here today.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. All right. We appreciate the conversation, and thank you, Carrie, for bringing that forward. We're now going to, what kind of break do we want, commissioners? 5-10 minute break? What are we thinking? 15, 10 minutes? All right. So let's try to get back here by no later than 11:30. All right. Let me take that screensaver down. Give everyone a second to pop back on.
If you see me go off, it's because my dog took a spin around out back, and I'm hoping he comes back.
He'll come back.
So it would be me trying to get him in my house. So
I know we're live, and so I won't say too much, but I've heard the food orders that Commissioner Hill has made for that dog, and that dog eats better than I do. So I promise the dog's coming back. All right. Looks like everyone's back. This is a reconvening of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Jordan Maynard. It's approximately 11:30 a.m. We're holding this meeting virtually, so we will do a roll call. Good morning, still Commissioner O'Brien.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Hill.
good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Skinner.
Good morning.
And good morning, Commissioner Broder.
Still here, Mr. Chairman.
Glad we're all still here. All right, with that, we are turning it to item number 6, and that's the Investigations and Enforcement Bureau. We'll turn it over to Director Monahan. Director Monahan, we're having some audio issues.
Hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. And we lost you. We had you for a second. All right, we'll give you a second to call in. I was able to read that.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Fantastic, thank you. Sorry about that. So today, this morning, the IAB has 4 matters for the commission. One is a review of a recommendation for a civil administrative penalty, and 3 are new matters, new non-compliance matters for the commission to hear and to decide on next steps. So the first matter on the list, agenda item 6A, is a recommendation of a civil administrative penalty, and Enforcement Counsel Deandra Franks is going to walk you through that.
Great. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. The IAB is presenting its recommendation that the Commission assess a civil administrative penalty in the amount of $15,000 upon Betfair Interactive LLC doing business as FanDuel for a non-compliance event occurring from March 20th, 2023 through May 15th, 2024 and June 4th, 2024 through June 6th, 2024. The regulations implicated in the violation are 205 CMR 247.011, 205 CMR 247.012I, and the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Catalog. The IAB originally briefed the Commission of this non-compliance event on October 24th, 2024, at which point the Commission decided to assign this matter to the IAB pursuant to 205 CMR 232.011A. Just to refresh the Commission's memory, the facts of this incident involved wagering on the LPGA, which is the Ladies Professional Golf Association, which was previously not approved for wagering. 7,155 wagers were accepted for a total handle of $78,254.56. During the IAB's initial presentation, the Commission was interested in what caused the wagering to go undetected for the length of time that it did. FanDuel reported that it offered the LPGA because at the time it believed it was a member of the International Federation of PGA Tours and thus approved under the Massachusetts event catalog. Just to give some context, some golf leagues like the US Open, for example, and that includes both men's and women's, are governed under the same umbrella, which is the USGA. and have been approved since launch, but this differs from the PGA and the LPGA, which are two separate golf entities and are not governed under one PGA umbrella. And that distinction created confusion for some operators, including FanDuel. On June 24th, 2025, the IAB submitted its recommendation to the commission via email. As outlined in the recommendation, the IAB investigated this matter, had further discussions with FanDuel concerning the causes of the incident, and reviewed the remedial measures taken. During the IAB's review, no additional information was uncovered that would materially change the nature of the noncompliance as originally presented to the commission. FanDuel was responsive and communicative throughout this process and is in agreement with the IAB's recommendation. Based upon IAB review, communications with the operator, and guidance from the commission, the IAB is recommending that the commission assess a $15,000 civil assessment upon FanDuel. At this stage, the IAB is asking that the commission vote for one of the two available options pursuant to 205 CMR 232.023A and B, which are to 1, adopt the IAB's recommendation as the commission's final decision, or 2, reject the IAB's recommendation and issue a notice of intent to adopt a separate recommendation following an adjudicatory hearing. The IAB is happy to answer any questions the commission may have prior to making its decision.
Commissioner Skinner.
Yes, thank you. Deandra, thanks for your presentation. Just on the amount of $15,000, why isn't the IAB building on the prior penalty that was issued to this operator for allowing wagering on non-approved markets? The Belarusian national soccer team. So in that situation, the penalty was $20,000. Why are we not progressing here?
So for every assessment, we consider, the nature of the non-compliance, the type of violation, the number of wagers, and previous decisions. And we assessed this LPGA wagering based on a similar LPGA wagering matter that we brought to the commission previously for a different operator. And based on the facts of this one is actually a higher civil assessment than the other one based on the amount of time, the fact that it was reopened, things of that nature. So we looked at it based on this specific set of circumstances in comparison to that as well. And it's actually a higher assessment than that other situation. So we thought it was appropriate based on the facts of this one specifically.
Okay, that makes sense to me then. And so we have two operators, right, with the same non-compliance issue, though of varying degrees. Are there any other operators? And I mean, I'm assuming that in response to the email that the former sports wagering director sent out to individuals, I mean, just generally, I'm not asking who they are. Are there other operators that will be potentially fined for this similar non-compliance matter or incidents?
To our knowledge at this time, no.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Just with that, I'm willing to accept the recommendation from the IAB for the $15,000 penalty. No objection.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Yeah, so I had kind of the similar question to Commissioner Skinner's, and I'm willing to accept this for now, but I would say that if you're looking at the length of time, the level of money, and then also overlaying that into the specifics of the operator in hand. So yes, we want people treated equally, but if it's the 5th time someone's doing this and it was the first time somebody else was doing it, I would ask in the future that sort of be either a mitigating or escalating factor in terms of the fine.
Yeah, and I'll say that the fact that we quickly legalized this in the catalog after finding out also weighed in on my decision on thinking about this too. So I'll accept the recommendation also. Commissioner Broder?
Same.
Commissioner Hill?
Fine with the recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Do we need a vote on this? Are we good? All right. All right.
Thank you. So we are actually going to stay with Deandra for the next matter, which is a new non-compliance matter for the commission to hear. Thank you, Deandra.
Thank you. So this alleged noncompliance incident involves temporary Category 3 sports wagering operator FBG Enterprises OpCo LLC doing business as Fanatics Betting and Gaming, and implicates 205 CMR 247.011, 205 CMR 247.012I, and the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Catalog, which prohibit allowing wagers on unapproved events. Fanatics offered wagering on the Maharlika Pilipinas Basketball League, or the MPBL, which is not approved for wagering. The noncompliance lasted from July 1st, 2024 through April 25th, 2025. During this timeframe, 13,045 wagers were accepted for a total handle of $712,957. The noncompliance was discovered by our sports wagering division after it came to its attention that this basketball league is not a FIBA or an International Basketball Federation sanctioned league or otherwise permissible in the Massachusetts catalog. At this point, I'm happy to take any questions, and I'd ask the commission its preference for next steps as to how to handle this noncompliance. As a reminder, the options are to refer it back to the IEB, set it up for an adjudicatory hearing, or issue a civil administrative penalty under Chapter 23N, Section 16. And I'd like to remind the commission that, as I just presented, two similar matters involving operators permitting wagering on another unapproved league, the LPGA, and those were referred back to the IEB, just for reference.
Commissioners, what do we want to do? Commissioner Broder?
I would refer it back, particularly based on what Deandra said. This is similar in type and kind to other things that we've referred back. I think the IEB does an exceptional job with this level of investigation resolution, so I'd like to see it go back.
Commissioner Hill?
Mr. Chairman, I would refer it back as well.
Commissioner Skinner?
Same.
Commissioner O'Brien?
I would too, and just ask that be mindful of the earlier conversation that we had today.
And I'd refer it back too.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for the next two matters, I'm going to refer this over to Enforcement Counsel Nate Kennedy, who will handle them for the IAB.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I actually have these two matters. They're the same event of noncompliance with two separate operators, so I'll pause at the conclusion of each for further steps. We are presenting to you today these matters for guidance on how the IAB should proceed. The first matter is American Wagering, Inc., doing business as Caesars Sportsbook, a Category 3 sports wagering operator. This matter is Caesars offering wagers on the college basketball crown tournament in contravention of 205 CMR 247.0121 and the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Catalog. Caesars has accepted 1,039 wagers between March 23rd, 2025 and March 31st, 2025 for a total stake of $56,665. This matter was brought to the attention of the commission by Caesars. They inquired of the sports wagering division in March about whether or not the crown tournament was in fact a permitted event. They and the next operator believed that this was a permitted event since it was all NCAA Division I basketball teams participated in the tournament. However, based on some social media reports and other jurisdictions began discussing the Crown basketball tournament, Caesars and the subsequent operator caught wind of those discussions and reached out to the sports wagering division to inquire whether or not this was in fact a sanctioned event. They learned that the NCAA did not govern this specific tournament, and the sports wagering division advised them that it in fact was not an authorized event by the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. So with that, I would pause for next steps, same next steps that Council Franks had just described to you.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Hill?
I'm not ready to make a recommendation on the next steps, but I think I'd like to be a little bit more educated about why this is not allowed in Massachusetts. I'm a little confused. I know it wasn't maybe NCAA sanctioned, but again, I'd have to go look at the regulations, but I thought a college is college.
Mhm.
So I'm a little confused on why they were in violation. Once I get that answer, then I would make a recommendation on the next steps. Is that possible, Nate?
Good thing. I'm actually trying to pull up now. So the event was NCAA Division I basketball teams, and they were included on the NCAA schedule. However, the tournament was not subject to NCAA approval specifically. So with that, it would be violative of the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Catalog, because it was specifically said that it would need to be an NCAA tournament, despite them being a Division I. The requirements are there, but they were not in fact governed by the NCAA. So
you may not know this question, but so what's the difference between that tournament and the Maui tournament at the beginning of each season?
I certainly do not know the answer to that question. I can't draw that distinction. If sports wagering is on the call, they had looked into this and provided they did a brief investigation of whether or not this was in fact a sanctioned event. That would be a question for the sports wagering division. But I do believe it's because of the sports wagering catalog specific delineation of tournaments being sanctioned or governed by the NCAA specifically.
So, Mr. Chairman? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm going to Commissioner Brodeur, is what I was saying.
Yeah, I had the same questions. I learned a lot. I learned that Valvoline is the official motor oil of college basketball. That's an exciting thing to know. My sense of we can refer it back because I had that same question, and it's kind of our question. I do think this is something that I want that information, but I don't know if I need it in terms of consideration of the resolution of this. So I would recommend sending it back to the IEB and maybe having sports wagering do a little bit of digging about, what falls in and what falls out, because I would have thought the same thing as I think Commissioner Hill was saying, that this would be a normally sanctioned event. It looks like, it's a little bit after the tournament, if I have my dates right. So it was just, more activity, not unlike the NIT or the Maui Classic, the Great Alaska Shootout, whatever those things are.
Can I ask a question? No, sorry, Commissioner, but do we know who did sanction the event? I guess that's.
I believe it's an independent body. So it's. I'm trying to look through some of the notes from sports wagering now, just to give some gloss to this.
As you're looking at that up, I mean, I liken this to the MIAA, which is the high school Massachusetts interscholastic. During the Christmas break, you'll see like a bank will give do a tournament of 4 teams or something of that sort. It's not MIAA sanctioned per se, or maybe it is. So I'm trying to see where the difference is here, and it's a learning thing.
I think it's a made-for-TV kind of, type thing. One of the sponsoring casinos had basically had a viewing party in Vegas, something like a mini spring break thing. It looked like something. I guess someone kind of threw this together, but again, with very high-quality programs. If I had to guess, it was reffed by NCAA, whichever Big Ten or whoever officials. But
so I'm going to ask a loaded question, Mr. Chairman. So I think you can see where I'm going with this is, okay, we refer it back. That's great. Can they come back to us and say, well, you know what? We don't think we should fine them because I think we all thought it was sanctioned, even though our regulation is specific. And I'm saying maybe we need to go back and look at our regulation, but maybe not. This is a unique one.
So item A that we took earlier, we always had the final say. We can always kick it back depending on the recommendation. I'm assuming they can make various recommendations. I'm assuming that they often sit and think, X commissioner wants to go harder and Y commissioner wants to go softer. So that probably weighs into recommendations that they make. That said, we always have a second bite at the apple, for lack of a better idiom. Commissioner Skinner?
Well, I'm hoping our leanings as individual commissioners don't weigh into the final recommendation that comes out of the IEB. I think the way to address any concerns that we have, for instance, Commissioner Hale and Commissioner Broder's concerns is, to treat that as mitigating in any situation. And it would be the commission treating that as mitigating, and perhaps the IEB at sports wagering and sports wagering. If there's an issue, an underlying issue that needs to be addressed, I think we handle that separately. But at the end of the day, I think what is being presented is a matter of non-compliance. And so that needs to be dealt with. And anything that we want to revisit, obviously we have the prerogative to do that. So I am in favor of sending this back. We haven't gotten to the other one, but I'm in favor of sending that one back too. For some of the same reasons. I don't know the underlying situation with the other operator, but I do think that this is something that was identified by sports wagering as a non-compliance matter, and we need to treat that as such until such time as what is presented or investigated leads us to another conclusion.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. I hope, since the five of us govern, they're always thinking what's in these people's heads. So just clarifying that was my comment. Anything else to add? I'm okay with kicking it back to them too, Commissioner Skinner. Do we want to hear the next one and then make our final determination? Is it similar facts? Nate?
It is the exact same root cause. It's from Win Mass LLC, doing business as Encore Boston Harbor, a Category 1 sports wagering operator. They similarly offered wagers on the Crown Basketball Tournament in contravention of 205 CMR 247-02I. EBH accepted 77 wagers between March 30th and March 31st, 2025, for a total stake of $5,199. Very similar in they had offered the wagers, monitored the same social media discussions and other jurisdictions discussions, inquired of sports wagering division. They ceased offering once they began hearing that this may in fact not be an authorized event, same as Caesars, and then inquired of the sports wagering division here at MGC, who informed them that it was not in fact an authorized event. So very similar circumstances.
Commend both operators for doing that. Commissioners, send it back. Commissioner O'Brien, Commissioner Hill. We'll send it back, Nate and Commissioner Hill. If one is to bring up at an agenda setting meeting, adding some stuff to the catalog that fits that statutory tournament of 4 or more, that broadens that, I think I, as one commissioner, will be open to having that discussion in the future.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else, Director Monahan?
That's everything for today, other than me fixing my my phone here. Thank you.
That's all right. We still have problems with the technology. And thank you, Nate. Thank you, Deandra, for your presentations. All right. Commissioners, we're now to item number 7. And for that, I see Chief Delaney is on. Good morning still, Chief Delaney.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. So today we have up for you the last Community Mitigation Fund grant for this round, which is the City of Boston. They have requested $2,607,000, and we are recommending full award of that amount. The city is requesting a waiver. Unlike our other applicants this year, it is not a financial waiver. It is a waiver for time for execution of these grants. And what they are asking for is for a 3-year term of the grant. Earlier in the history of the Community Mitigation Fund, we used to issue these as 4-year grants. When we went to the block grant approach, we made them 2-year grants to encourage people to spend the money more quickly. This does ask for the overtime and the public safety program coordinator for that funding to go over a 3-year term. There's no real particular issue with that, and given the uncertainties moving forward, this waiver would provide the city with some certainty regarding those types of programs. So we'll leave it up to the commission on whether or not to approve that, but we don't really have any objection to it particularly. So the first project of theirs is their public safety project, and there are a number of subcategories under here. The first one being the public safety program coordinator, and that funding is actually for fiscal years 27 and 28. The commission funded this staff person last year, but through some delays and so on, the city is just filling that position now. So there's money left over from last year to pay for the next fiscal year, and this would be for the 2 out years, which is part of the waiver discussion. Overtime, there are several different units that are requesting overtime, and again, these are proposed to be spent over fiscal years 26, 27, and 28. Again, the review team believes these are all acceptable uses of the funds, so no objection to that. It's just the waiver for time. Third one is training. There are several different training programs that are being proposed through the Human Trafficking Unit, the Regional Intelligence Unit, Bureau of Investigative Services, and the Bureau of Field Services. We reviewed all those, and we are fine with that. We are wanting to put a condition on the training, just because some of the detail on the training programs and exact costs were a little bit lacking in the application. So we would like to put a condition on there that requires them to give us updated costs as they're getting closer to doing those trainings, so that we know exactly how much we're spending on each of those. The next item is some equipment, a couple of laptops for their human trafficking unit, which seem to be appropriate. And then the last item is the administration costs. They're requesting 7.5% of that total grant amount, which is what is allowed under our guidelines. So I guess I'll stop with that one. Is there any questions regarding the public safety application?
Commissioners, questions on that piece? Good to go, Joe.
Okay. The second is a bike share expansion in Charlestown. This is to add 4 additional bike share stations to improve alternative transportation modes. This is something that we have consistently funded in several communities. We did some in Cambridge and Medford and Malden and a couple of other locations. So we are fine with that one for full funding on that project, as it's very consistent with what we've done in the past. Any questions on that particular item?
Commissioners? Seeing none, hearing none.
So the third project is a transportation project, and this is for the construction of the Boston Harbor Walk extension. The city was actually initially asking for $900,000, and we are actually recommending more than that. So what happened was in the calculation of the subsidy, they calculated it differently, or I should say they didn't calculate it correctly initially. And when we did the calculation, it is eligible for more than the $900,000 that they asked for. So we are recommending increasing that amount, and that would bring the entire overall project up to that $2.6 million that's requested. This project is a little bit distant from the casino, and we had a little bit of concern with this initially, but the city did provide us with information that showed us that this is part of an overall plan to connect up bike paths and so on that will get you down to the Alfred Street Bridge and of course to the other side to the casino. So with that additional information, we were okay with that. Any questions on that one?
Just a comment that if you recommend more funding, it means they must have needed more funding.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last one is the Cambridge Street Bridge design. This is right in Sullivan Square. There is a bridge that goes over the MBTA railroad tracks, right where I-93 ramp dumps down into Sullivan Square. Obviously, there's a lot of traffic from the casino that uses this, and maintaining that in good condition is critical to getting people in and out of the casino, as well as Sullivan Square, obviously. There's some definite deterioration on the bridge that they've already identified, but this study would, or design, I should say, will propose improvements to that bridge that could potentially be partially funded by a future year grant if the grant program continues. So any questions on that?
No questions, but a comment. If someone can solve Sullivan Square traffic, they deserve the Nobel Prize for something, because that is a tough road to hoe. But good to see that they're thinking about investments in that area.
Yeah.
Commissioners,
I can't say I have the solution to it, Paul. I wish I did. I could use that Nobel Prize,
You'd be in like Phil Eng level of transportation godhood if you could do that. That's for sure.
Okay, and that is the last project in that grant.
Thank you, Joe. Commissioners, any questions, comments, motions?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Broder.
See if I can get this right. Yeah, I move that the commission approve the City of Boston's application for funding for the Community Mitigation Fund in the amount of $2,607,000 with the condition that funding for a public safety program coordinator and overtime initiatives be expended based on a 3-year term set to expire June 30th, 2028, in accordance with the waiver request for the reasons set forth in the submitted application and materials included in the commissioner's packet and as discussed here today. And further, that the commission staff be authorized to execute all necessary grant instruments commemorating this award in accordance with 205 CMR 153.04, with many thanks to legal.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. Congratulations to the City of Boston. Joe, congratulations to you and Mary and all the work that you've done, as well as I know that we've had a co-op and a former colleague work a lot on these. So thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
Thank you, Chair. I just did want to, extend my thanks to the review team, and particularly, Mary Thurlow, we had Jenna Hentoff, Judy Young, Zach Mercer, Jaden O'Rourke Nelson, Bonnie Andrews, and of course, Lily Wallace, who has left our employ, but was certainly involved through the first few months of the program. I want to thank the whole team. I think we have put together a really good team, and Commissioner Broder and Commissioner Hill as well, who sat in on a number of these things. I think we put together a really good review team. We work well together, and it's been really a pleasure working with all of these folks on this grant round. So again, thanks to everyone who participated.
Thank you, Joe, and we appreciate you and your hard work on this program.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for item number 7?
Nope, that completes that for this year.
Yay!
Congratulations, Mary. All right, we're going to turn it to item number 8. And for that, I believe interim General Counsel Stimpick has a couple of matters for us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. The first matter will actually be turning it to Staff Attorney Autumn Borelli to go through a change to regulation for the Commission.
Hi, good afternoon. Today I'm bringing forward a proposed a proposed amendment for 205 CMR 115 subsection 4. The change is largely to have new qualifier suitability proceedings align more with the commission's current practices and have the regulation also align with 205 CMR 101 regarding adjudicatory hearings. The language as it is right now does not currently coincide, and this is just going to change it so that new qualifier suitability proceedings will solely be held in adjudicatory hearings. There is a slight benefit to that. There is a slightly lower standard to enter closed sessions during those adjudicatory proceedings as opposed to the public hearings, which are currently in the reg, but will be removed. Yesterday, Commissioner Skinner brought up a great point that there have been some changes with the governor's fiscal year 2026 budget. There have been some changes to General Law 23N, Section 6I, which allows additional avenues to enter executive sessions. However, while there are additional avenues, it doesn't mean it's a standard it's the same standard as you would have in an adjudicatory proceeding. For instance, a great example would be if a novel issue were to come up during one of these new qualifier suitability hearings, that for a public hearing, it would have to be noticed and the executive session would have to be noticed, and you might not be able to enter that executive session if it was not properly noticed, as opposed to during an adjudicatory proceeding under 205 CMR 101. The closed session is at the commission's sole discretion, and as long as you're protecting the privacy interests of the applicant or other parties. I'm requesting a vote to approve the initial promulgation process for this amended regulation.
Thank you, Autumn, and thank you for your work on that. Commissioner Skinner, and I see Commissioner O'Brien. Commissioner Skinner?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Autumn and the team for being responsive to my inquiry. I am supportive of the amendments. I just wanted to make sure I understood, what effect the new language around the sensitive data would have on the rationale for the amendments. I'm comfortable that this is still the way to go, given your explanation today, Autumn. I do have just one recommendation for, this is the first time we're seeing this proposed amendment, right? Yes. It's really more cleanup. It's 115.042 under adjudicatory proceeding. That first sentence, I think, is superfluous, given that we are proceeding or proposing to proceed on the adjudicatory hearing basis at the outset. So where it says when the commission determines that an adjudicatory proceeding shall be held, that language I think is unnecessary because we are determining that we shall have an adjudicatory hearing. So that determination has already been made, and it is going to be standard going forward should this final amendment pass. So my recommendation is just to delete that first sentence and just start it with the commission shall.
I would have to hear how that's going to work out. I never like to shall myself, ever. Commissioner O'Brien.
The shall is already there. I'm not suggesting we add that shall, but it's already there, and we're not proposing to amend it. So we're stuck with that, at least in this present form.
You take out the if beforehand, then it becomes a mandatory shall as opposed to a selective shall.
That's how I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Brien, I'm reading it that way.
Well, I see what you're saying.
If then shall.
I see.
Versus
Yeah.
shall.
Yeah. Well, but if we're, I mean, the only way, I mean, I don't know, we're talking about these adjudicatory hearings for suitability, right? Isn't that the only instance that we're discussing here in terms of, you know, the adjudicatory proceeding, the process? I don't know. I guess I see it both ways. You know, I don't think it boxes us in quite in the way that the two of you are thinking, because this is, after all, the subject matter, right? Adjudicatory hearings. And if we're trying to bring the language in line with the other regulation, right? We've already determined that we're going to go this route, the adjudicatory route, as opposed to the public hearing route. I leave it to legal to sort through. It's just a suggestion. I'm not wedded to it. I just, you know, I'm all about cleanup language. So that's the spirit of from which I come with the offer.
So I might suggest we stick with the language in front of us with a request for legal to look at that, because I'm having PTSD and I'm going back to when we sorted this all out to try to reconcile part of it saying meeting, not even hearing. It was like meeting versus hearing versus, and it was like a whole disconnect. And so I think what they're doing now is trying to make it all align with the conversation we had. So I think the fastest way to do this is to vote on the language in front of us with sort of a request or directive to legal to look at. Commissioner Skinner, you're asked to delete that sentence to make sure it doesn't box us in unnecessarily. We had some conversations about whether in certain sort of clean report, very straightforward cases, were we going to, by agreement, forego adjudicatory and simply do a hearing or a meeting. So I just want to make sure we're not eradicating that option by taking the first sentence out. And then just to bolster what Autumn had been saying about sort of the executive session versus adjudicatory hearing, that one of the hypotheticals and the situations we sometimes encounter is the privacy that we're trying to protect by going into private session is not that of the applicant in front of us, but is potentially a third party who is involved in some sort of activity or transaction. We don't have a mechanism for going into executive session to protect the privacy interests of that third party. And that's one of the primary reasons we chose to move with the adjudicatory method. So I'm in favor of trying to clean up the regs to get it all matching, but with the understanding to take a closer look as we go past this first phase of just starting the process with what you said, Commissioner Skinner, on whether that first sentence needs to be altered or removed.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm going to defer to legal, but section 1 there, subsection 1, we're removing the option to conduct a public hearing or an adjudicatory proceeding to say that we shall, and that language is there, the commission shall initiate a process for adjudicatory proceeding. And then 2 would just say, in the instance of this adjudicatory proceeding, we're going to follow 101. That's just how I read this, but again, I'm going to defer to legal. But totally accept the fact that we should vote on this language as is and give our team the time that they need to fully analyze what I'm proposing. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm good with the changes, Autumn. Commissioners?
I'm happy to provide the motion language if we're ready. I didn't know.
I think we might be ready unless Commissioner Broder has something, or Commissioner Hill. I'm ready.
Good. Okay. I move that the commission approve the small business impact statement and draft of 205 CMR 115.04 as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today. And further, that staff be authorized to take the steps necessary to file the required documentation with the Secretary of the Commonwealth to begin the regulation promulgation process.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien?
Aye.
Commissioner Hill?
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner?
Aye.
Commissioner Broder?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. All right. I believe, thank you, Autumn, for your hard work on this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I believe we're sticking with you, Justin.
That's correct. Our next item will be going into executive session, Chair. So I think between that and the approval of some executive session minutes, that may be the end of anything public for today's meeting.
So we won't need to re-enter for any sorts of votes or?
No, because the vote's on executive session. Well, actually, hold on a second.
All right. So what I'll do is I'm going to read item 8B1 and item 9. I'm going to read some language so we can make some decisions on going into executive sessions.
Mr. Chairman, quick, can I interrupt for a second? I'm back for commissioner updates and other business.
Actually, if we want to, we can do that now. If there are some, that's a good idea. So if the commission will humor me, can we go to item number 10, commissioner updates?
I asked because I think I have one, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if it's another business or a commissioner update. So let's call it a commissioner update. I just wanted to mention, I suspect everyone here knows, but for anyone that may be watching, the recently passed tax and spending bill that is now law federally includes among its many provisions a change in the treatment of tax treatment of gambling proceeds. It is, in a sense, it has essentially restricted the amount of losses that are deductible under federal taxes, which of course creates disincentives for folks to participate in the legal market, the way it is set up here in the Commonwealth and across the United States. And that is something I think we all need to be aware of. There are members of Congress that are going to try to reverse that decision. Not only does it encourage to a certain degree entry into the illegal markets, but I will say that I am not a tax expert, and I don't fully understand what the tax treatment is of so-called futures contracts that Kalshi and some other folks offer that are currently outside of our jurisdiction. But that is also a threat to our marketplace and, quite frankly, to responsible gaming, because those markets operate with a younger set and with none of the protections that we have built into Massachusetts law. And I know, Mr. Chairman, you were at a conference in Louisville where someone who I believe has represented the prediction markets essentially represented to the professionals in attendance that, you know, we don't care if they lose their shirts or words to that effect. I know how this commission feels about that, and a step that the Congress and the president have taken to shift to a market that may have that as their operating principle is not a good development in the world of gaming. And I do think it's something that we'll need to, at least keep an eye on. We obviously don't have federal jurisdiction, but given that there is some pushback, it's something we'll need to keep an eye on, and to perhaps chat with other regulators and folks about how we can, maybe work together to protect our consumers.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder. And if we didn't have our guest from the AGO's office, I would probably offer what my statement was to that, but I think it was covered. We really care in Massachusetts about responsible gaming. That's how I'll say it here. Not the exact words I use there. But yeah, it's definitely going to hit also the poker players. I'm reading that too. So thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Broder. Commissioners, anything else on commissioner updates or anything in response to Commissioner Broder? Do we have any other business that we want to discuss? All right. Thank you again, Commissioner Broder. And with that, I'm going to go to 8B I or 1, depending on if you're using Roman numerals or not. And let me read some language in. The Commission anticipates that it will convene in an executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, in conjunction with its review of litigation strategy with respect to Public Health Advocacy Institute versus Massachusetts Gaming Commission, as discussion at an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the commission. Commissioners, would we like to enter into executive session for that reason?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
aye.
Commissioner Broder,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Let me go ahead and read some additional language in, and we'll end the meeting out of the executive session. The commission anticipates that it will meet in an executive session to review minutes from previous executive sessions, as their discussion at an open meeting may frustrate the intended purpose for which the executive session was convened. Pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, and Chapter 23N, Section 6I, December 6, 2022, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, Chapter 23N, Section 6I, and Chapter 4, Section 7, 26C and N. That's December 13th, 2022 at 12:56 p.m. and 3:15 p.m. General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, and Chapter 4, Section 7, 26N. That's May 22nd, 2025 at 1:34 p.m. And General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, 4, 6, and 7, Chapter 4, Section 7, 26F, and N, Chapter 23K, Section 21A7, and Chapter 23N, Section 6I, May 22nd, 2025 at 1:50 p.m. And I'm going to say, just for the record, I refer to the language that is inserted into our agenda for today if I misquoted any of those letters or numbers.
I move that we enter into executive session for the reasons just stated by the chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
Commissioner Broder,
Yes.
and I vote yes, 5-0. And thank you to Team Legal, as Commissioner Broder said earlier, for putting that together, that language. All right, with that, we have finished today's public business. We're going to enter an executive session, and I hope that everyone has a great Tuesday.